Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan Hodge from FantasyLabs.com here, and I want to spend some time going over my Week 6 quarterback model. We'll take a look at my tournament model, my GPP model, and a more of a low variance cash game model too, as we just kind of dissect the quarterback position here. So let's dive right in. You can see I've already got it sorted by player rating here. So Patrick Mahomes, Heineke, and Herbert rounding out the top three. I think Mahomes and Herbert make tons of sense, and I also think Heineke makes tons of sense for that salary. If we scroll over here, wow, you will see that all three of them have a great opponent plus minus. Plus 4.6 for Mahomes, plus 9 for Heineke facing Kansas City, who is just giving it up to quarterbacks and their wide receivers. And then Herbert here against Baltimore at plus 2.1. You'll also notice I've got my projected ownership uploaded here. If we go down to mine, you will see all of my projected ownerships as well as my own ceiling and projections as well. We'll stick to the Fantasy Lab defaults for now. But yeah, sorted by rating, like I said, those three guys seem to make a lot of sense. Lamar coming in a little bit lower, but that it's going to be because my model takes into consideration the opponent plus minus of negative 5.9 here. You couple that with a median projection of 27.6, pretty high. So that's what's really shooting him up there. And then the ceiling is just massive. I mean, if this guy is throwing for 3, rushing for 2, 300-yard bonus on DK, that's where this massive ceiling comes from. 6 pro trends here for Lamar. And we've got Stafford kind of sneaking in the middle, sandwiched in between all of this with a projected ownership of 5.5. Good leverage here. You can see his ceiling gets up to 35.6. I think this for Lamar is honestly too high for a ceiling and median projection. You'll notice mine here is much, much lower for a ceiling projection of 38.55. So that could be one of the reasons why he's popping. I think it's a tough matchup. The Chargers, have just shown that you probably want to run the ball a little bit more against them, but the ceiling is insane, and that's where Lamar rushing can absolutely get there. I just think at $7,400 for the highest projected owned quarterback, give me $100 cheaper, and let's dip down to Justin Herbert here, who comes in at a much lower projected ownership. I don't have him this low. I think I have him maybe 4th or 5th on the slate in projected ownership. Yep, there we go, 6.8. Great leverage score here with this ceiling. A very friendly opponent plus minus. Let's take a look at a little bit of a lower variance model. We'll take a look at this pro model, and we'll grab this cash game model here and just see what that does in regards to our player ratings at the quarterback position. So Heineke coming in at number 1, Lamar with that massive median and floor projection, and Patrick Mahomes. So you can see how Lamar shoots up in player rating in a lower variance model because you really are looking for that rushing floor. And obviously he's got a massive ceiling too, but Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Herbert coming down a little bit in the model where he's much higher in mine due to that opponent plus minus, that leverage score. And let's take a look at values here. Probably get Heineke up there, while Lamar's still coming in high because of this ceiling and median projection, even though his salary is pretty high too. So that's interesting. I'm going to hop back into my model here because we like to focus on tournaments because those are the fun ones. Who's trying to grind out 10% ROI? And 10% ROI is a great ROI in cash. It just doesn't sound like fun to me, I think, unless you're getting massive volume down or really trying to make it as a professional DFS player. Oops, I've got the wrong model here. Really trying to make it as a professional DFS player. I think the majority of us should be playing tournaments. All right, awesome. Back to my model. So if we dip down below Lamar, we've got Carson Wentz with a mediocre, very meh opponent plus minus, but that salary is out of control at $5,400. I think I'm still playing Heineke though. So this is definitely going to be a salary-induced model here. Mac Jones, this is tough. Dallas has shown that they clearly want to run the ball a lot, but they are still being fairly friendly to quarterbacks, plus 1.8 opponent plus minus there. A little bit below that, we get down to Kyler Murray, Teddy B, and Joe Burrow. So Teddy B coming back in under center. And, you know, somebody who I've been looking at a little bit more is Cortland Sutton. He has 168 route runs on the year. He's got a average of 7.8 targets per game, and he has 128 intended air yards, which is third best per game. 128 intended air yards per game. So with Teddy B back under center against Las Vegas, who, let's take a look at their opponent plus minus for wide receiver. I know this is a quarterback model preview, but let's just take a look since we're talking about Teddy. Negative 2.9 opponent plus minus, and that is because their opponent plus minus for running backs, I wouldn't be surprised if is pretty close to one of the best. Where's Vegas? Why don't I see Vegas? Well, now we're getting off track. There we go. Plus 3.1. Or no, sorry. I had it right there. I'm all over the place. They were leading the slate. Looking at running backs. I should have just stuck to quarterbacks here. I got all sidetracked. But yeah, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon with the two best opponent plus minus at 4.5. And so you definitely want to run on the Raiders. So kind of tough there for Teddy B and Cortland Sutton, but Cortland Sutton, once again, back to wide receiver, I think is an interesting play this week. I got to stop saying the word interesting. Got to come up with better words, such a not word. Back to rating here at quarterback. Joe Burrow. So this Joe Burrow and Green Bay game is pretty interesting. Joe Burrow with a 25-point implied team total and Green Bay with a 25-point implied team total. It looks like that has shifted a smidge. So these two teams are playing so slow. Green Bay is like one of the dead last teams in situation neutral pass rate, and you've got both of them playing like bottom 25 in situation neutral plays per second. So it's just like, I understand why people are kind of talking about this. Looking at Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, pretty cheap. Joe Burrow, I'm totally looking at, I was thinking this Chicago and and Justin Fields. That's really what I was thinking about. But Joe Burrow and Detroit are also playing at a very, very slow pace, bottom 25 in the league in seconds per play. So scratch everything I just said about their implied team totals. And what I think is interesting is the running backs in both of these games. We need to monitor Joe Mixon's status. He missed practice Wednesday and Thursday, but DeAndre Swift is catching a lot of projected ownership, and you want to run on Detroit, and you also want to run on Cincinnati. So, or at least that's what the data is suggesting. Who knows what these coaches are gonna do, right? So I don't know. Pretty tough quarterback pill to swallow here with Joe Burrow or Justin Fields, or Jared Goff. And then I think this Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields, Justin Fields has one of the lowest player ratings possible. This game should be super, super slow. So I really am sticking to the top end range here in my model as well as in projections. I think Justin Herbert is probably one of the best quarterback plays on the slate. No fewer than 38 pass attempts so far this season, and has 3 games of 40 plus pass attempts. Like I said, healthy implied team total of 25 point, good opponent plus minus. And while Baltimore has been pretty slow in regards to pace per play. The Chargers have not been. They are the number one team in situation neutral plays per second. So, seconds per play. So and at the ownership that he's projecting for, he's not getting a lot of tout throughout the industry. And then you've got really great wide receivers. I think Keenan Allen is going to be pretty chalky, but he's at a very palatable price point. And if we go back to leverage, the number 2 wide receiver in my leverage model last week was Mike Williams, and the number 2 leverage wide receiver in my model this week is Mike Williams. So it's interesting. Now, Mike, I have Mike for a little bit higher than 1% in my projected ownership. I've got him closer to like 3 or 4. Yeah, 3.3 here. But Keenan Allen definitely projects for a little bit more ownership at 14.3. However, when you start doing a full team stack and you look at a guy like Hollywood Brown, oh gosh, I really wish I could search by their nicknames. I do that with like Visca all the time too. Great leverage score here, 5 pro trends, very tough opponent plus minus, good projected ownership, great ceiling. He has a tough matchup, but what I'm getting at is when you start stacking that game, even though a guy like Mike Williams might carry a good amount of ownership, or Keenan Allen might carry a good amount of ownership, Mike Williams is very, very cheap in regards to his projected ownership, and so is Marquis Brown, who is seeing 7.5 targets per game and 102 intended air yards per game, and a good over under here. So I think stacking this the Chargers side of this ball is going to be a little bit lower owned than the Baltimore side of the ball. I think you'll see a lot of people just going like Lamar, Mark Andrews, or Lamar, Hollywood Brown, and bringing it back with Keenan Allen. And so I think if you just shift to the Chargers side of this football, even though Keenan Allen projects to have a little bit of ownership, nobody else does. So let's, as we continue to talk about kind of stacking this game, Mark Andrews, very high projected ownership, but like the lottery wheel of Cook and Parham, you could get there. I think it's thin. I don't think you have to. I think you just play Herbert. Now, you could go with Eckler with Herbert too and full onslaught this game in smaller field tournament sizes of like 300, 400, max 500 total opponents. I'm okay with full onslaughts of 3 from the Chargers and 2 from Baltimore. But sorry, side tangent on ownership with quarterback and how you can be a little bit unique. So even though that, a player or two might project for good ownership, or that game is catching a lot of steam, but one side of the football is not, even though they should. I mean, his passive. Anyways, I just gave you the full rundown. I'm not going to, reiterate all of that. So yeah, I think that honestly probably sums up this shorter week. Couple teams on buys, couple good quarterbacks playing Thursday night football this week, with Hurts and Tom Brady kind of taking out 2 of the the more popular quarterback plays. Dak against New England, probably a hard pass for me. I think I'll continue to fade Dak until he plays teams that are running at extremely high paces and will force him to throw the ball. They're just not throwing. I mean, they're running at such a high rate. Everyone knows that. So I really, really do think I'm sticking to this top tier. Mahomes, Heineke, Herbert will probably be 3 of my highest owned quarterbacks, with Herbert being the highest owned quarterback for me this week. At least that's how my initial lineups are shaping up. I don't know if I'm doing Kyler. I don't think I'm there. I'm not playing Stafford against the Giants. Not because it's like a tough matchup. I just a little concerned about, whether it's Daniel Jones or Glennon. playing there, just depending on how the rest of practice goes this week for Daniel Jones. I'm just not sure that they can really keep up with Mike Glennon in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, Justin Herbert for me, fam. Look, I'll see you guys on Monday for the recap. I'll see you guys Tuesday for the first look. And I'm going to start doing an early week value show too. So any other, and this is all coming from suggestions and comments from you guys. So anything else that you guys want to see me cover, drop them in the comments below. Any questions you guys have, I'm always trying to reply to them. Don't forget to subscribe and like and help grow the channel. And with that, run good in week 6. Peace.